So today, we're going to be looking at a scenario where Europe has a battle royale. Now what this means is that Europe is going to be divided into a certain amount of teams with a certain amount of countries. For example, let's say that Germany, Austria, Czechia, Poland, and Denmark all form a team together, and then we have countries like Belarus, Ukraine, Moldova, and Romania also forming a team. From here, a bunch of other teams will form, but the main point here is that all of these teams are going to be going to war until there is one faction standing. And this isn't necessarily an all-out war. Alliances are allowed to work together to take down another alliance, but the number one rule is that there has to be one team remaining by the end of the video. So if you guys do enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. As always, all the support is greatly appreciated. If you want to show even further support, make sure to check out our channel membership program. With all that being said, let's go ahead and jump straight into this video. So Europe is a continent full of very many countries, very diverse countries. However, most of them are allies, whether that be through NATO or the EU. That has absolutely no meaning in this video. Europe will have a full-scale battle royale. And the first countries to form a team will actually be the Nordic countries up here in the north, with Finland, Sweden, and Norway all coming together in one faction. There really aren't many rules for joining factions, they just have to be relatively balanced, so as many countries can join this as they want, as long as there is another faction of equal strength. So joining this faction is also the nation of Estonia, Denmark, which of course comes with Greenland, and then the nation right next to Greenland, Iceland. So this is the first official team to form. Of course, they will be participating in the battle royale and hope to be the last team standing. But now we come down to our second team that will form, which is going to be led by Poland, with countries like Lithuania, Latvia, Belarus, Ukraine, Moldova, and Romania also joining. Now you might be wondering, how on earth are Belarus and Ukraine working together? How is Belarus working with any of these NATO countries? You know, in real life, they're not friendly at all. Well, that's because relations don't really matter in this video. Also, on that note, I do want to say that Russia will not be participating in this video because if Russia was on any single team, that team would win. Russia is the second strongest country in the world. So Russia will be excluded, but a country that won't be excluded is actually Turkey. And Turkey is another very strong country, you know, ranking in the top 10. So their team won't actually be too huge, but it will consist of Greece, which is extremely surprising considering that they don't like each other. But once again, relations don't matter in this video. That's why we also see Cyprus joining in on the purple team. And with that, we also see Bulgaria, North Macedonia, Kosovo, Albania, and Serbia also all joining in on the purple team here. So this is kind of like the Southern Balkan Alliance. Up here we have the Eastern European Alliance, and then to the very north we have the Nordic Alliance. But for our next team, we will have Italy lead it, and joining that will be the nations of Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Slovenia, Austria, Hungary, and Slovakia. So we can now kind of see how the teams in this battle royale are starting to shape up. We only have a few select countries left over here in Western Europe, but notably these are the stronger countries in Europe between France, the UK, and Germany, so their teams are going to be relatively small in comparison to these other ones. Still though, they will be probably some of the strongest. And then for our next team, we're going to be having Germany lead it, and they will also be joined by Czechia, Switzerland, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. Next up is Team France, which will consist of themselves, Spain, and Portugal. And finally, that leaves us with the British Isles between Ireland and the UK. And this is where it gets kind of complicated because these guys aren't enough to be a team of their own. Obviously, they're going to need a few more countries to be balanced. So we're actually going to go ahead and give the UK over to the red team that is based over in Scandinavia, so they will join up with them. And then finally for Ireland, we're going to be adding them in to the Western European Alliance, which is headed by France. At this point, the teams for our European Battle Royale have been completely filled out. There is a total of 6 teams that will compete. And with that being said, let the battle begin. Alright, so like I said, there actually isn't really many rules for the Battle Royale other than there has to be one alliance remaining. So teams are allowed to work together if they so choose to do so. And that is exactly what we see happening first, with the orange team led by France and the blue team led by Poland, both declaring war on the German faction. Now, other alliances are also allowed to come to the help of Germany if they so choose to do so, but some of these countries still have the history books in mind, and, well, Germany's gonna get absolutely no help from anybody in this war. France will begin their invasion up into the lowland countries, while Poland and the rest of the blue team will begin their advance out from the westernmost areas of Poland, heading straight towards Berlin, which is literally right there in sight. Now, the German faction is at what could be called a severe disadvantage here, being surrounded by 2 of the stronger alliances in the blue team and the orange team, and really the only country that is contributing in this team is Germany itself. So these 2 alliances are primarily going to focus on knocking Germany straight out of the war, because if they do that, the rest of the alliance is for sure to surrender. So France really won't bother themselves with the Netherlands, and instead will begin to send forces out towards the city of Frankfurt. While back over here with Germany, we have them pushing back against the Polish, protecting Berlin for now, but losing ground down south where the Polish are going to go ahead and enter into Czechia and almost immediately take over the city of Prague. Back over in the west, we have the French finally capturing Frankfurt, while back up north, we have the Germans and the Dutch actually carrying out a counteroffensive to push back French forces towards Brussels, where they now have a battle, which unfortunately for the Germans goes in favor of the French. Back over in Czechia, we have Polish forces securing most of the country as they move out and, well, secure most of the country. But up north, the Germans have success in pushing the Polish almost completely out of their country and starting a very small advance into their territory. Back over in the west, though, the Germans are unable to stop the very, very fast advance of the French, who are now spreading out deeply into German territory. And eventually, the Orange team will make the decision to actually shift their focus slightly over to the Netherlands in order to capture all this land up here. By doing so, they will essentially secure this front line down here, and from there, they can do a full-scale march over towards Berlin and hopefully meet up with Polish forces. So the French will begin to execute their plan and will capture the capital city of the Netherlands. And after Amsterdam falls, we also have the subsequent fall of the Netherlands, leading to the French now pushing straight into German territory. At this point, France has pretty much achieved their strategic objective and are now pushing right across Germany. And at the same time, we also see Poland pushing back Germany in the east. The Poles will then cross the border into Germany once more, now going straight back to Berlin. And at this point in the conflict, we actually have a third party occurring, with the Red faction joining the war against Germany in order to secure land down in mainland Europe. So from the Danish peninsula, Red Team forces will begin to move out. They will go ahead and capture the German city of Hamburg before capturing the entire northern coast of Germany. And at this point, the end is pretty near for the Yellow Alliance, as Blue Team forces go ahead and take over the capital city of Germany in Berlin, and then go ahead and push their forces even further out. And at this very point in time, all three of the factions that are at war with the Germans are just rapidly expanding in the German territory. The Blue Team will go ahead and make a strategic decision to go down and capture the German city of Munich. And after that occurrence, we have the full-scale surrender of Germany, and all three alliances that were invading it are now successful, meaning that the first faction in the Battle Royale has fallen, and of course, with Germany's surrender also comes the surrender of Switzerland. So we can go ahead and take a look at the first peace treaty of this Battle Royale. And in this treaty here, we see that there are quite a few changes to the map over here in Central Europe. First of all, we have the lowland countries all being forced to join the Orange Team with France, as well as Switzerland. And then we have Czechia being forced onto the Blue Team, and around half of Germany onto the Blue Team, with the other half going over to the Orange Team, and then the northern coast actually being annexed by Denmark. And this shows that there are actually a lot of ways that you can deal with teams once you defeat them. You can either fully annex them into a country, like, for example, France could have fully annexed this area of Germany, but instead they chose to make them into a country on their team. That's an option. The Red Team went the annexation route. Of course, we saw Denmark annexing the northern coast, but for the most part, countries were just forced to switch alliances, which is what we see happening here. So the Orange Team and the Blue Team both expand, as well as very slightly the Red Team. But we are now leading straight into our next battle in this scenario, and that is going to be between the Purple Team and the Green Team. So the Italy-led alliance versus the Turkey-led alliance. And right off the bat, as soon as this war is declared, the Purple Team will begin to flood the Northern Balkans with troops, as Montenegro will be the first country to fall. But the Purple Team doesn't stop there, of course. They're going to continue their advance, now going into Bosnia and Herzegovina and capturing the capital city of Sarajevo. And overall, the Purple Team does have the advantage off the jump, as they are now annexing pretty much all of Bosnia and Herzegovina and moving straight into Croatia. But as the war goes on for the Green Team, things are actually just going to keep getting worse. Croatia will lose their capital city, and Purple Team troops will begin to enter into Slovenia. And like I was just saying, things are getting worse. And that's because the Blue Team has just entered the war, not on the side of the Purple Team, but on their own side against the Green Team. Basically, at this point, the other factions are seeing the Green Team as the weakest link in Europe, meaning that, well, they're probably going to get jumped. So Poland will now begin to send troops straight into Slovakia, with now the help of Czechia, who just joined their alliance. They will move down and capture the capital city of Slovakia, before then briefly going into Austria and capturing Vienna, and then making a play on Budapest down over in Hungary, although not capturing the city, and instead starting a very long battle. This occurrence up here in the north has very notably weakened the Green Team's defenses in the south, allowing for the Purple Team to once again move out, now capturing the capital city of Slovenia, and meeting over with the border of Italy. Italy is not too happy about this because they kind of feel like their team was, maybe not the strongest, and honestly, it isn't. But if the green team really wanted a better chance at, surviving in this video and maybe making it towards the end, they likely should have attacked Germany when they were being jumped by the orange team and the blue team. In order to really win this battle royale, you have to be active in the wars. You have to, get land, take land. That's how you get stronger, and that's how you really compete against some of the other factions that are a lot stronger, like the blue team and the orange team. The green team, well, Italy, I'm sorry. Italy is playing with unranked teammates, which is it's quite the change up. Italy usually is the unranked teammate, ask Germany. But hey, Germany got divided up, so I mean, who's laughing now, Italy, right? Definitely not you. You're losing. Anyway, the blue team is, as you saw, successful in taking over Budapest over in Hungary, and Romania will now start their invasion into the eastern areas of Hungary, and this country will soon surrender. And with Austria losing Vienna, we now have Germany coming down and capturing this major city here, as well as taking over Liechtenstein, a very, very strong country on the green team. But yeah, they also have the mighty nation of San Marino and the Vatican City. And Malta. Yep, that's really going to save Italy. I mean, probably not when you have the orange team that has countries like Monaco and, Andorra. Like, those are way better than these ones. Let me know in the comments below for this video. Rank the microstates of Europe. Give me them in your tier list, if you will, or just rank them in order. In my opinion, the number one microstate in Europe is undoubtedly the grand area of San Marino. But as for the rest of Austria, they have been pushed back all the way to the Alps, meaning the blue team is likely done with this war, as there is a very hard to traverse area here. So that's a quick sigh of relief for Italy, but also very quick, as the orange team will now declare war on them and enter the factional jump of Italy. So French troops will now move out from their border, traversing this kind of hard to navigate area in the mountains here, but they'll get past it and instantly start pushing into the Italian peninsula. They'll send some forces up and capture the city of Milan. While over here in the east, we finally see the purple team start to move into the northern areas of Italy, capturing Venice and also moving down the Italian peninsula. Down in the Mediterranean, we have French operatives going ahead and taking out the region of Sardinia. And soon after, we see the mighty area of San Marino fall to the purple team, a huge loss for the green team, likely spelling its defeat now, especially as France blitzes straight down towards Rome. Now, this isn't to, discredit Italy, they are a very strong country, one of the strongest in the world, but, you're being jumped by Turkey and French-led factions. So, yeah, there goes Rome. Up north in the mountains of the Alps, we have some operatives going out and capturing mountaintops and planting, Turkish flags there. Yes, the Turks have conquered the Alps. Back over in southern Italy, we have the Albanians landing in Italy. Oh boy, history is cruel, and the Albanians remember. They definitely remember. Anyway, Albania has taken over almost all of southern Italy, and the Greeks are in Sicily. So yeah, the green team faction was pretty much doomed from the start. Italy wasn't given any real good teammates, which is unfortunate, but maybe in another universe, maybe in a different part of this video, maybe we can do different iterations of this kind of concept. They get a better team. That includes, France. Not today, though. Italy lost, and we can go ahead and take a look at this peace treaty where the green team is going to officially fall. And in this treaty here, we see that Italy meets a very similar fate to Germany in that it is divided up between two factions. We now have Italy being forced to join in on the orange team, except obviously losing a ton of land to the purple team. And then we have the purple team making San Marino into basically all of Italy. Yeah, this is great. So San Marino takes over all this Italian land, and of course they are put on the purple team, but also notably on the purple team, we have the return of Yugoslavia. Remember earlier, I said that countries can choose what they do with the land that they win from other factions. They can either, make them join their side, like the blue team did with Austria and Hungary, or they can choose to annex land. And in this case, Serbia decided to reform Yugoslavia, except just without Kosovo and North Macedonia. I'm sure that they would love to add both of those countries in if they weren't on their team. But aside from that, we also come up north here and we see that Czechoslovakia is back. Yeah, once again, countries can do whatever they want. So Czechia decided to annex Slovakia and reform Czechoslovakia. So we actually have two historical countries making a return here, while also having San Marino on steroids. But at this very point in time, there are only 4 factions remaining. The 2 weakest factions have been written out, and now things are going to get very interesting, and also very bloody. At this point, though, it is probably necessary to do a top 4 ranking of the militaries of these 4 factions to really figure out who is the strongest. So at number 1, we have the orange team led by France, and that is really the only reason they are number 1, because France. The other alliances, like the red team, they do have the UK, but the collective strength of their allies up here probably isn't enough to top that of Spain, half of Italy, and half of Germany, although I think you could probably make an argument. But I'm going to say that these guys are still the strongest. Number 2, the blue team over here led by Poland. It includes Ukraine, it includes Belarus, Romania. It has countries like Hungary and also most of Germany, Czechoslovakia. Number 3 in the rankings would probably have to go over to the purple team led by Turkey. There's also Greece there, half of Italy, and Yugoslavia. And then finally at number 4, we have the red team, which is led by technically the Scandinavian countries. But, you know, the UK is the strongest, so I guess they're the leader. Still, though, they lead the weakest alliance here. And it's important we say that because the next war that will be taking place is between the 1st strongest and the 4th strongest. So the orange team declares war on the red team. And the first instances of battle will take place over in the British Isles as Ireland will move across the border and take over all of Northern Ireland. While over in the German front, we have French forces moving up, capturing Hamburg, and cutting Denmark off from some of their German annexes that they got earlier on in the video. Obviously, this is a pretty doomed war for the red team. They are going to stand no chance against the orange team, but luckily for them, there aren't only 2 factions in the world, as the blue team will be joining this war on the side of the red team officially. So we have our first kind of actual alliance being formed between nations, as the blue team will come to the aid of the red team in the name of defeating the orange team, who they view as the biggest threat to their existence. So technically, they aren't really on friendly terms with the red team because, once again, there has to be 1 faction remaining by the end of the video. So this is really just a matter of business in taking down the strongest remaining alliance in order to pave the way for some victories for possibly other alliances like the blue team, the red team, or the purple team. So blue team forces will immediately cross the border into the orange team. They will capture Frankfurt like on the first day, which is really impressive. But this is a full-scale invasion of the orange team, and this is also a war that is somewhat being led by Germany, who wishes to re-annex its other half. And it's safe to say that this was definitely not an invasion that the orange team saw coming, as the blue team will now immediately reach over to the border of France and start to threaten to invade into, Alsace-Lorraine. They want it. It's theirs. But the occurrence of the blue team now joining the war is going to make the orange team scramble their forces in the north a little bit, because this is obviously no longer as big of a priority as the main front down south. So their forces will kind of retract out of Denmark. They will hold a defensive, but most of them are now going to be used against the war with Germany, and we see progress made in the north as they're able to push back those German forces, and even send some across the border into that country. That also means that any priority with Ireland has been shifted, and the British are, they're going to have their way with Ireland, to say the least. It's not going to be pretty. Dublin will fall over to British forces, and then they're going to take the other major cities, and Ireland will be forced to surrender, which really goes to show that the orange team was not anticipating the blue team joining this conflict. Of course, in the Battle Royale, anything is possible, but they were really, kind of banking on the blue team actually joining the war against the red team to get land in Estonia and Finland and maybe even Sweden. So, yeah, they gambled wrong, to say the least. But this is a very important war for the blue team to win. They want to get as much land as possible in this conflict, because if everything goes right, the orange team will be eliminated, meaning that the purple team will probably join the war at some point to get land from Italy, and then it's going to be the red team, the blue team, and the purple team, and the blue team is right in between both of those factions, meaning that if the red team and the purple team are smart, they'll probably form an alliance to take down the blue team and battle it out in the end, and the blue team knows this. So the blue team wants to avoid that from happening, and the best way to do that really is just to win outright in the orange team. So Germany will go ahead and dust off the briefcase. They'll pull out some war plans, and oh no, Blitzkrieg Part 2, Modern Edition. Luxembourg has fallen now over to blue team forces, as they now start to pour over into Belgium. And this, of course, is a very, very costly endeavor by the blue team. They are spending a lot of manpower and resources doing this. It is effective, they are winning, but the cost is very high. And a faction like the purple team, who might be considering joining this war, is going to consider that in the decision they make to join a certain side. They don't have to join against the orange team. They could actually join on their side to take down the blue team. It's just a matter of who they think is the bigger threat at this point. But back up north, we have Danish forces now crossing the border over into Germany. And of course, this isn't just Danish forces. There are also, Scandinavian, Nordic, and British forces here. I'm going to lighten their front line a little bit so you can see it better, just in case someone might be colorblind, and do know that these colors are very similar. But these forces will now cross over into the Netherlands and will once again threaten the city of Amsterdam. I'm sure the Dutch are tired of being invaded. But at this point, the orange team's front line over in central Germany will of course begin to fall. They are very strained right now, trying to protect that very front line and to prevent an encirclement. So they will pull back some of their forces, and then their forces will be chased down by German forces. So yeah, they're just kind of pulling back out of Germany completely, and that's exactly what we see happen, as they will now retreat over into the lowland countries. So yeah, France is, they're not doing too hot over in Germany, which means that they're going to come down to the purple team now and offer them a deal, basically saying that, hey, if you join this war right now against the blue team, you're going to get a ton of land. We have the chance to win this war, and you should join our team. So Turkey will consider that. Man, what the hell? The purple team will now declare war on the orange team. So yeah, diplomacy is dead. Rome is now captured by Albanian forces. Doesn't matter, the San Marino Empire will now go ahead and destroy the rest of Italy. The orange team was really betting on the purple team joining their side against the blue team because, you know, at this point, the blue team does look to be the biggest threat, especially as they win over in Germany. But the purple team disagrees. They think that having Italy and, you know, probably a lot of land over here is ultimately going to be more beneficial than fighting against the blue team right now, who has a ton of countries already in their faction. So these guys will now all work together. It is a 3v1 jumping of France, so yay. We get to get rid of France, everyone. Europe is united in the cause to get rid of France, I'm so sure. Back up over in the Netherlands, we have the red team's forces, now with the aid of British landings in some of the lowland countries, going ahead and capturing Amsterdam, leading to the surrender of the Netherlands, and soon after, we have the capturing of Brussels, which leads to the surrendering of Belgium. Down south, we have San Marino forces going ahead and completing the sweep of Italy and moving across and taking over Monaco. That's right, this microstate does not like the other microstates. In fact, this microstate hates other microstates so much that they formed a whole-on Italian empire to get rid of all the other ones. There can only be one. Anyway, these forces are now pouring into southern France, meaning that the battlefield has officially shifted over to France, who is, being invaded by the Germans, the British, and technically the Italians all at once. I don't know about you, but I don't think that's a really good matchup for France at all. Just because Napoleon did it does not mean that modern France can't. But who knows? Maybe Macron is like that guy. Maybe he's the ancestor of Napoleon. Yeah, no, definitely not. Anyway, Switzerland will be very strategically occupied by the blue and purple teams. I don't want to talk about how they did it, but they did. And now we are once again seeing the British land in Normandy. Oh yeah, this is, France is having horrible PTSD right now. They'll also make a landing over here in Brittany. They'll consolidate that front line and create one solid front line in the north of France. They'll meet up with that front line over in Belgium. And death is knocking on the French's door. The blue team has just exploded into France. Tons and tons of troops are now pouring in. They'll move down south and capture the city of Lyon, while also pushing up in order to capture the city of Paris, which they will do in collaboration with the red team, so Paris will fall to both blue and red team forces. This area of land will go over to the red team. And from here, the three factions will focus on occupying as much of France as possible. Of course, France isn't the only country in this orange faction. There's also Spain and Portugal, who are quite far away from the fighting as of right now, but the fighting is approaching. So get ready. Get ready, Spain. Anyway, though, once the fighting is over with, we can see exactly what this front line in France is looking like. Most of it actually went over to the red team, but there's also a very solid chunk that went to the blue team, and a smaller portion that went down to the purple team. Still though, the most important thing to note here is that only the red team and the purple team have a front line in Spain, meaning that the blue team can no longer get any land from the orange faction, which, if you remember what I said earlier, is not good for them because they wanted as much land as possible in this war to prevent the red team and purple team from teaming up on them. But now, that might actually be what happens. So for now, the blue team will wait, and it will allow for both the purple team and the red team to start their invasions of Spain, which of course will go in their favor greatly. No offense to Spain and Portugal, but yeah, you guys weren't the leader of the alliance for a reason. So the red team now actually just goes ahead and spearheads down to Madrid and captures the capital city of Spain. While over in the far eastern regions, we have the purple team focused on capturing some of that Mediterranean coast, now going all the way down to Gibraltar, and of course taking the Spanish Isles out in the Mediterranean. The red team will then go ahead and capture the area of Galicia, and then start an invasion down into northern Portugal. The purple team will expand their front line to meet up with the red team, kind of going towards that Madrid region. But right as Spain and Portugal are getting ready to surrender, the blue team will declare war on the purple team. That's right. Despite them being on the same side in this war against the orange team, they aren't officially aligned with one another. Remember, the red team and the blue team are. The purple team just joined the war to get land out of the orange team, meaning that well, the blue team can invade them if they so chose to do so, which is what they're doing here. So while the purple team's forces are all the way over in Spain fighting for annexation, the blue team has been waiting for the perfect moment to strike, and hey, that moment is here right now. Their forces will instantly cross the border over into Yugoslavia and capture the capital city of said Yugoslavia, being Belgrade. We also see the blue team start to move down into Bulgaria, heading straight towards Sofia, while over here we have Austrian forces moving down and cutting off the purple team's direct access to Italy and also the entire Spanish front line. Operatives over in France will also begin to move down to cut off this area. So Spain has been, well, not Spain, but the purple faction has been split into 3 different distinct areas: Italy, Spain, and then of course their actual faction. But the blue team has the strategic advantage here to the max. They will go ahead and set up a defensive front line here with the mountain range that goes ahead and divides up France and Spain. And then they will start their advance into Italy. They'll capture the capital city of Switzerland and bring that fully on over to their side, while also starting a full-scale invasion into San Marino. So the purple team's response to this, of course, is going to pull all of their forces back out of Spain, of course, to defend the motherland, their actual core alliance. But what happens at the same time is that the red team declares war on the purple team. So yeah, there's a big old battle royale, which is, by the way, the name of this video. It's the red and blue team versus the orange team and the purple team, who the purple team is at war with everybody, so they're fighting a 3v1 now, similar to what France was fighting, who is, by the way, still fighting a 3v1. It's just that the red team and the blue team have teamed up against everyone else. This will actually allow for Spain to push back in Iberia, though, so they'll go ahead and recapture a lot of their land. As red team forces move across, now occupying Spanish land, which is probably being abandoned at this point, of course. Remember, they are pulling their troops back to protect the motherland. But this will go ahead and create a 1v1 situation between what remains of the orange team and the red team. This allows for the blue team and the purple team to focus on fighting each other, and I would say that they're relatively close in military power, but the blue team did get the jump on the purple team, which is going to be very important in deciding the victor of this conflict. Over in Italy, we have San Marino being captured by blue team forces, so that's a big loss for them, or more so their capital city being captured, because remember, they did annex most of Italy. But the occupied areas of Italy will now start to be invaded. They'll capture Rome, and it's going to force all the troops in northern Italy to surrender. They won't really focus on Sardinia and Corsica as of right now. Back over in Iberia, we had the red team moving down and capturing Lisbon, so Portugal now loses their capital city. And with no other major cities remaining in the Iberia area, we actually had the full surrender of the orange team. So, the red team is victorious in taking them out, but remember, there is still a raging conflict happening between them, the blue team, and the purple team. Now, the red team could declare war on the blue team here and start to kind of change the tide of this war, but they feel as if they have a pretty good chance at actually coming away with the land they have now and maybe being able to rival the blue team. That might be a delusional take, but we'll see what happens. For now, though, back over in the blue team, we have them going down and capturing this city here, which will go ahead and split Turkey off from the rest of their alliance, which is not what the rest of the alliance wants to happen at all, because Turkey is the main military supplier here, and without them, these guys are pretty screwed. So they will continue their invasion into Yugoslavia. They'll go ahead and capture Sarajevo for the second time, while also pushing down further into Italy, and basically forcing any troops here to either surrender or to give up and go home. This is a lost front line at this point, so the purple team is essentially going to abandon Italy, and with that also Corsica and Sardinia, and they will fall back over into the Balkans, where their troops are very much needed, as the blue team is outright destroying the purple team in this war. It really shouldn't be this in favor of the blue team, but the purple team was very discombobulated by the occurrence that happened over in Spain with the blue team suddenly jumping them. That's fair enough, you know, that's pretty messed up that they were fighting alongside the blue team and then all of a sudden they're invading them. But, you know, there is a world in which the purple team didn't cut off the blue team in France and the blue team kept invading into Spain. But that's also a very risky for the purple team because then the blue team would have gotten really strong. So, you know, at the end of the day, we come to the situation in which the blue team is spanking the purple team. It is inevitable, it is fate, it is destiny. Turkey, I am so sorry. Similar to Italy, you kind of got unranked teammates. I mean, other than Greece, like I was kind of alluding to earlier, maybe there's different iterations of this battle royale we can do and have some different factions form. Who knows? It just kind of depends on how this video does. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like and subscribe to me, said the YouTuber. Anyway, Greece has fallen to the blue team at this point, leaving only Turkey. And with the combined strength of the blue team and all of their occupied territories, Turkey should be fearful. They will now go ahead and make a landing in the northern Turkish areas, while also making landings across the Aegean area. With all these landings combined, the blue team will begin to consolidate their front lines and push straight towards Ankara. And Turkey, very strong country, but also a lot of their forces were expended over in Spain. They were forced to come back. That took a long time, and by the time those troops got there, well, a lot of the Balkans was already lost, and there's also the possibility that the British and the Orange team might have started killing those troops before they could leave. So, Turkey, really unfortunate. The backstabbing is a tragedy. Shakespeare would probably have something to say about it, but Shakespeare isn't Turkish. So, yeah, goodbye Ankara. They will lose Istanbul and the entire Mediterranean area, and with that, Turkey will actually go ahead and surrender, leaving only Cyprus. That was a big mistake by the blue team, as Cyprus will now unleash their entire army on the world and will begin to go ahead and recapture as much of Turkey as possible. They will go ahead and, in a way, the purple team will completely lose this war along with the orange team. So 2 birds with 1 stone by the red team and the blue team, who are still working together at this point. But with that being said, the blue team has most of Europe under their belt, and the red team, well, they're fearful. Anyway, though, let's go ahead and take a look at this peace treaty, in which, oh, yeah, this isn't looking too good. So, the blue team has taken over about, 4/5 of Europe? No, that maybe about 3/4. Let's just say a large percentage of Europe. All of Eastern Europe, all of Southern Europe, minus Spain and Portugal. And the red team gets everything else, which is Iberia, half of France, the lowlands, and northern Germany. And, I'm no expert at, war and stuff. I do fictional scenarios, so I'm definitely not an expert, but I don't know. I don't think the red team stands much of a chance at all. So the blue team will reestablish Italy. They're going to flip over a bunch of countries. They'll add North Macedonia and Kosovo over into the Yugoslavia, which is now full again. They take half of France. They take over half of Germany. And the red team gets everything else, so Spain, Portugal, half of France, like I said, the lowlands, northern Germany. And with only 2 teams remaining, we can now start the final battle of the Battle Royale, the blue team versus the red team. So the blue team will go ahead and do the red team a favor, and they'll declare the war themselves, and they'll instantly wipe Estonia out of existence. It no longer exists. None of the land there is real. The blue team will now also send their forces over into northern Germany, and the belt here is going to be hitting very hard. Like, the red team doesn't stand much of a chance at all, and the blue team simply just overwhelms their forces. There's an argument for maybe, the Nordics holding on for a while, and then Spain, but as for everyone else, yeah, you might want to go ahead and pack up your bags. You're going to Cancun, buddy. Amsterdam will be captured for the 3rd time in this video. Also, Denmark, goodbye, Denmark. Yeah, Denmark didn't get invaded until now, which is honestly impressive for Denmark, everyone. Give a round of applause for Denmark, not being, invaded within the first 6 minutes of the video. But, yeah, that doesn't matter, because now it's happened, and now it's over. The blue team will now make a landing right next to Helsinki. They'll capture Helsinki, and Finland will lose a lot of their populated areas in the south. Sweden will lose Stockholm. And then over in France, we have Eastern French forces crossing over and capturing Paris. And, of course, it's not just East France. It's the entire blue team here. They have some extremely strong countries. They have Turkey, Italy, Greece, they have Yugoslavia, Poland, Germany, Ukraine, Belarus, Romania. They have a lot of hard hitters here. And, the red team has some big names like Spain, West France, the UK. But at the end of the day, they're going up against the entire European continent. So, yeah, there goes Paris, like I said. And the blue French forces are obliterating the red French forces. It is a French civil war. The Europeans are once again applauding this occurrence, but Brittany will fall the blue team forces, and they will go ahead and meet up on that mountain range with Spain, so this will set up a kind of natural barrier for now, while the blue team focuses on everyone else. They'll now move up and capture Oslo from Norway. They'll move around the southern coast of this country, and after moving a little bit further in, the Nordic countries are ready to surrender immediately over to the blue team. At this point, morale is in the ditch for the red team. They know that they can't really win this war, unless the UK, launches a nuke, but, nuclear bombs would end the scenario. There would be no winners, and remember, rule number 1, there has to be a winner. So we'll avoid the nuclear destruction of Europe for now, and instead we'll focus on the end times in the Nordic countries, which, Finland will be the first to go, Sweden will follow soon after, and after Norway sees both of their Nordic brothers fall, they'll make the very smart decision to also surrender over to the blue team. All right, Britain, get ready. The Germans will once again dust off a briefcase full of war plans, and we're going to have Operation Sea Lion modernized. Yep, they're going to land right outside of London, and there goes London. No more beans on toast. Horrible cuisine. Why do they even do that? We need to sink the British Isles. Anyway, England will fall over. Wales will fall. We have Cornwall falling. Scotland will be smart and surrender. And Ireland, who is, probably going to rebel against the red team here, will come back. And of course, they'll surrender as well. Seeing this, we have Iceland going bye-bye. Greenland was a part of Denmark, so they will also probably surrender when the Danish surrender. But, they might hold out a little bit longer. Maybe they can get independence out of this. Probably not, though. Which leaves Siesta Man and Portugal. Spain, I love you, but you're cooked. The whole Catalonia region will fall, and the blue team will go ahead and spearhead straight over towards Madrid. They'll capture that city, and Spain will surrender, and so will Portugal. And that is the end of the Battle Royale. So, in hindsight for the red team, they actually might have had a chance if they had betrayed the blue team during the Orange Team War and helped out the purple team fight back against the blue team. Then, those two alliances, they could have been the last two standing, the two underdogs, but they decided to wait it out instead and let the blue team take on the purple team, which was their biggest mistake. They should have backstabbed them and started the war there. They would have had a much better chance of survival, but unfortunately, the cards did not play out for the red team, and they end up losing this war, although they did come in second place. So, the red team, being one of the weaker ones, made it to the end. So, congratulations, red team. With that being said, though, we can go ahead and take a look at this peace treaty, which will be extremely simple. And yeah, it is that simple. So, Germany and France are going to go ahead and reunite into one whole country. So, there's no more East and West France. There's no more North and South Germany. Just those states exist. Germany actually went ahead and annexed Denmark out of spite. So, sorry, Denmark. But everyone else will be simply flipped over to the blue team. Ireland will be released as its own country with Northern Ireland. And that's really about it from the peace treaty. So the blue team will successfully win this video. They are the victors in the European Battle Royale. And yeah, that's just one of many outcomes that could have happened from this. Of course, there are a lot of different ways this could have played out. The wars could have happened in different orders, and countries might have backstabbed each other. They might have fought against the different sides in certain wars, and that could have led to a different faction winning. Just in this video, though, the blue team was the winner. Now, like I was saying, we could do more of these videos in Europe here, where there are different factions comprised of different countries, so it's not the same, and that once again depends on your support for this video. So, if you did enjoy today, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. As always, all of the support is greatly appreciated. If you want to show even further support, make sure to check out our channel membership program, where you can get early access to each and every single one of our videos, as well as early access to some members exclusive content. Once again, let me know down in the comments below for this video. I want to know how you rank the microstates of Europe in order. Like I said, San Marino is probably my favorite out of the bunch, but maybe you can do like a tier list, like S tier, San Marino, F tier, Andorra. I don't believe that, but you might. Or you can just simply rank them in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Up to you guys. But yeah, once again, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. And of course, thank you to all our super fans. This includes V1AV Greek, A Norwegian, The Bellum Republic, Lazy Bones, Dex Slendy, CTG on YT, Terminator, Mr. Sabotage, Gail Martinez, Upgraded Bro, Green France Mapping, LCBFX Cooper, Choco Fur, Agisto, Coda, Other Coda, Shifty Mapping, Country W4M, Jazzy Jerboa, Nevada Garbage Trucks, Oz Geo Guys, Zaylance, Laser Taze, Pablo Sigma Cat, and Hammer Toad. Once again, thank you guys.